What's up, guys? It's TyranitarTube, and it's time to talk about the supposed third DLC for Pokemon Sword and Shield. Now, this is something weird that's been in the talks a lot recently, and I'm here to explain it to you so you don't fall for this anymore. It's not happening. There's no third DLC for Pokemon Sword and Shield, so let me explain what the reasoning behind this is. Some dude a long time ago posted this in February 22nd of 2020 with the Giratina icon. He came, this is a whole year ago. This is 2020, not 2021. He popped up and said, "I'll be on here for 5 minutes answering questions on my post." Spoiler alert, no one commented on his post. He was here for 5 minutes, but the first comment is a whole 13 months later. But anyhow, he says, Sword and Shield, oh boy. The next few games will be 2020, Sword and Shield plus DLC 1 and 2 and 200 mons. Now, this was known. This was announced the month before in January of 2020. So he's just copying that information. But then he goes on to say, in 2021, Diamond Pro remakes. Predictable. But they're simple remakes. They will not replace Sword and Shield. And Sword and Shield will get the Sinnoh decks plus 100 more. That is weird. He predicted that in February of last year, a whole 12 months earlier. Turns out Diamond and Pearl remakes are simple remakes. And as of right now, almost crossing the 2-month line, we don't know anything about the games. We don't know if they really are just faithful, won't have megas, won't have new forms for Dialga and Palkia, and just be 3D lifted versions of the Diamond and Pearl we played as kids. That there is something that is not easy to predict. Everyone was certain it would be at least Sword and Shield like graphics. There's no reason to think it wouldn't be. Even in terms of them going back to Chibis, they introduced the Let's Go series so that they could have fun with that stuff. To think that they'd bring it into the main series, well, that's the problem. He's saying that Diamond Pro is not the main series, as if it's some kind of side spin-off remake version, and that Sword and Shield are actually the latest main series games still, which is why he says that later on in 2021, Sword and Shield's third DLC is going to be announced, releasing the rest of the missing Pokemon along with 3 new Mythicals. Forget the Project King. So yeah, this is pretty sick, pretty odd, and if you think about it, anything can happen. Like when they make their next trailer in, who knows, May or June, maybe they will announce a Sword and Shield DLC that'll come out before Diamond and Pearl end up coming out. Now, I'll give you my actual thoughts on this, but before that, we'll dive in a bit deeper. There are 2 names that have floated around. One is called the Jungle of Jewels. A dude on DeviantArt made this, and I swear to God, I see this in every thumbnail. What is your problem? You could even see the dude's logo there. What's your problem, dudes? What the hell? The Sea Scepter. So, just to give you an example of what people expect in a third DLC, I've gone and found one. The Cinder Citadel. No, I'm not mad. I'm just disappointed. Pokemon Day 2021 will mark the 25th anniversary for Pokemon, and they will announce the next wave of DLCs for Pokemon Sword and Shield, starting with the Cinder Citadel, which will be available on Pokemon Day. The Cinder Citadel is basically a massive wild area filled with massive empty castles and ruins. You meet Mr. Y-Man, a professor from a far-off land, who comes to gather in search of an ancient Pokemon no expert can confirm even existed. You basically help him uncover mysteries of the castles and ruins in search of this Pokemon. Way to go, 4chan man with a lot of time on his hands. Oh, but let me explain what's in this DLC, my friends. Galarian forms for Sinnoh starters. Are you out of your mind? Dude, even if this was real, with Diamond and Pro Remix coming up, you're not gonna overshadow them starters by showing Galarian versions of them here. That's the worst thing ever. Say like Galarian Shinx, don't say the Sinnoh starters. Galarian forms for Hitmons except Tyrogue, and Galarian Bisharp. Those are all I know. I think he's legit. I think he's telling the truth. Gigantamax is for Galarian Sinnoh Final Evolutions and Citadel Legendary. Citadel Legendary is based on a Welsh dragon. Ah, that's a Welsh dragon. Man, we could have a sick legendary like that. Its main form is Rock Dragon and looks like a cooled off magma and is all black. Its Gigantamax form has cracks through the black parts, with bright flames coming out, and it becomes pure dragon. Aha, that doesn't happen. The wild area itself is fairly small, maybe 70% of Isle Armor size, but their playability is all in the empty castle ruins. So he says there are empty castle ruins, which are little dungeons, and then like 2 other caves, which you can get unknowns in. Unrelated specifically to the Cinder Citadel, but there will be weekly bug catching and fishing tournaments with the DLC. Basically, can compete with NPCs, locally with friends, or ranked online. That's all I have. I can't offer much in the way of proof except pick related. You won't find that anywhere online. So look at this pic! I've offered you a picture from my DeviantArt account. So there's some awkward placements here. But any problems with the picture you can chalk up to, or the 4chan compression screwed it up. Here's a fun look at the Jungle of Jewels. But let me just be the first to say, there's no Sword and Shield 3rd DLC. Sword and Shield is done. They're not revisiting it. If there's one thing about Pokemon and Game Freak, it's hard to predict them. They didn't make Gray after Black and White, they made sequels. They didn't make anything after X and Y. They made 2 after Sun and Moon. They made DLCs after Sword and Shield. And then they made chibis for Diamond and Pearl Remix. But one thing that's for certain is that they maximize profit. They maximize the money they earn. They're not going to start Diamond and Pearl's hype season and then go back to Sword and Shield. It's as easy as that. You can think of all sorts of extreme cases like, well, what if Diamond and Pearl aren't really main series games? What if they are just faithful spin-off remakes and then they're going to go back to Sword and Shield? If there was going to be a 3rd DLC for Pokemon Sword and Shield, it would have been before Diamond and Pearl remakes were announced. Maybe they would have announced it in December of 2020 or January of 2021. It would have come out, I guess, on Pokemon Day, February 26th. And then around May, they would have announced Diamond and Pearl remakes. Obviously goes against what they wanted to do for their 25th anniversary, but they didn't do anything for it anyway. They just announced Diamond and Pearl Remix and then didn't expand on it. Like, they only announced Diamond and Pearl in February for their 25th anniversary. They weren't ready to announce it yet. They should have announced it in like May. That's what the original plan probably was, but they had pushed it up for the 25th anniversary. That's what they would have done. Could you imagine if they did that? If they announced the Golden Spoon 3rd DLC for Pokemon Sword and Shield in January and it came out at the end of February, and since February, it's been 2 months, a whole 2 months for everyone to spend their money on this DLC, for them to then announce it in early May, Diamond and Pearl Remix, perfect. But they didn't do it. So now that Diamond and Pearl's announced, it's not happening. I should have started the video with this. I want a 3rd DLC for Sword and Shield. There's so much potential. It goes without saying why people believe it. Guess what? There's no 3rd wolf in Sword and Shield. That's like saying there's no Rayquaza. There's massive potential for a 3rd DLC. Like a giant DLC that completely ties a ribbon on Sword and Shield. Now, if you think about it, it would be awkward because Calyrex brings the level cap to level 80. So what is this DLC going to do? Bring it to like level 95? Showing us what the 3rd wolf is going to do and all that. And in terms of Diamond and Pearl replacing the metagame, I imagine Diamond and Pearl being able to fight Sword and Shield. Maybe that means in Sword and Shield you have to not have any Dynamaxes on your team to fight with Diamond and Pearl. Or maybe Diamond and Pearl has compatibility for Dynamaxes and Gigantamaxes. But they seem like the same games in the battle screen. But then when you go out of the battle screen, Diamond and Pearl is chibis and Sword and Shield is normal graphics. The only possible way this could even be conceived is in some extreme situation where Game Freak's being extremely unpredictable. The same way Aura has carried the torch from X and Y, Diamond and Pearl should be carrying the torch from Sword and Shield. Because the metagame is a big deal for Pokemon. And unless they screw all this up and Sword and Shield stays the metagame and Diamond and Pearl remakes really are some spin-off mini remake thing, I don't see it. For the sake of the metagame, I'm gonna say that Dynamaxes will be at least compatible in Diamond and Pearl. You can trade them over and continue your metagame fun with that. But there's no way they're going back to Sword and Shield and making a 3rd DLC. Well, that's it. Shank the like button. I'll see you on the next video. Peace.
This the sound of my alchemy, the greatest success for all those who fell for me. I always respect the friends who wish well for me and live until the end and die. All time will tell for me, but I ain't going anywhere, believe me.